I recently watched a very interesting story. It was kind of like a documentary, but a short one, and it was called Born to Run. And no, it wasn't about the boss. It was about a group of Native Americans, an indigenous group actually from northern Mexico, known as the Roromori. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're fairly well known, the Roromori, for their capacity to run. And in the documentary put on by NBC, they showed how that wearing just traditional garb, the women dresses and skirts, the men in their outfits, and wearing simple sandals, that the Roromori were capable, many of them, of running an extraordinary distance with lower heart rate and better health without practice than nearly anybody else. And it was an extraordinary thing, and it's been studied over and over again. In fact, the show followed one young woman, 23 years of age. She didn't eat anything special the day before. She didn't do any stretches. She was serious. She was focused. She said, "I focused on the goal. The goal is the finish line. I just think of that." And then she embarked upon a run of 62 miles. Along with many others, an ultra marathon. Anybody an ultra marathoner in here? Yeah? Anybody marathoner? Yay. Not me. I am not a runner. I'll tell you what, I don't love it. I do run every week, but I'm not a fan, if I'm honest. It's the kind of thing where I'm like, I do as part of the other exercises I participate in and with for others, but I'm not naturally gifted at it. It's extraordinary to see a group of people so naturally gifted towards it. She ran those 60-some miles through torrential rains, through the beating of the sun, through rocks and terrain that was incredibly rugged. It was certainly not a clear path. And she did it, and she did it seriously, and she did it with joy, and she did it very, very fast. She came in second, not first. She was hoping for first, but she came in second, and another Morori won ahead of her. What an amazing ability. I was looking into this and studying it in the course of the last couple of weeks, and it was something that I discovered. It's something called persistence running. You might be familiar with that. That's essentially what the Morori are demonstrating par excellence, right? Persistence running is the ability to run and run and run mile after mile, hour after hour, maybe at the same pace. It's been shown that humans have the capacity to do this. We don't have all the physical acumen of some of the prey that we have hunted down through the millennia and the millions of years, but what we do have is we have this, right? Some of us more than others. Me, I'd like some more. But we have intellect. We have brains. We have the ability to think and reason. We also have the capacity to just keep going. It's what we do. We're dogged in that way. We can just go for 10 miles per hour, hour after hour after hour. And although we are not able to sprint as fast as many animals, or be as strong as many animals, or to climb as well as some animals, we can just keep chasing over and over, hour after hour, and exhaust the prey. It is believed that this is part of how humans developed and were able to sustain themselves with other physical limitations. We could just keep going until the other was exhausted. The reason I mentioned this morning is because part of our scripture today is talking about how we are made to run, that we are like athletes, but not the physical athletes. We are meant to be faith athletes, spiritual athletes. We're in a sermon series called Finding Joy, and it's looking at the book of Philippians, the letter of Philippians, all 4 chapters, and in this week we're in chapter 3. The Apostle Paul is on a journey of faith, and he's running the race with perseverance, the course that is set before him. He's not stopping. He's going mile after mile, day after day, year after year, despite all the hurdles he's got in his life. And if you've been with us over the last several weeks, you know those hurdles are huge. He has been shipwrecked, he has been beaten, he's been abused, he's been falsely accused, he's been arrested over and over again. For what? I'm glad you asked. For simply saying that Jesus was the Messiah, that he came as God incarnate, that he died upon the cross, that our sins put him there, but that he raised on the third day, and he rose to life that you and I might have life and have it abundantly. Paul was saying that to the Jewish community. He was saying it to the Roman community. He was saying it to Gentiles and people who already knew of a Messiah coming and those who didn't. And in various places along the way, people didn't care for that message, in part because it said, don't chase after what the emperor wants. Don't worship the emperor. Worship God instead. Let God be the ruler of your life, not that political leader or that other figure or that other goal in your life. Make God first and primary. And this was a threat, to you will, for the modus operandi of the day, and for what were even the Pax Romana, which allowed worship of other religions, but as long as it included worship of the emperor. And because Paul was preaching something other than that, he's been arrested. And now he's been taken to the city of Rome. And he's locked up. Some believe he's in a house church, but at this point he's probably literally behind prison walls and bars in a cell. And despite that situation, despite having been faithful day after day and still facing this type of difficulty, Paul writes a letter of joy to those who will receive it, to the Philippians in the city of Philippi, Macedonia. And he says, my joy, you fill my heart with joy just knowing of your faith. And the way he said, you're praying for me, it keeps me going on the journey. And then he goes on, he says, listen, our goal, the prize that we're seeking, it's to be like Christ in this life. To make our lives imitate Christ's life. And we talked about that last Sunday. And then he goes on, but how do you do it? Are you doing that well? And he says he's doing it. He's trying, but he's not perfect. I have the Message translation here this morning, and I want to reread the verses that we had read just a few moments ago in a different translation. Paul puts it this way. I'm not saying that I have all of this together, that I have it made, but I'm well on my way reaching out for Christ, who has so wondrously reached out for me. Friends, don't get me wrong. By no means do I count myself an expert in all of this, but I've got my eye on the goal, where God is beckoning us onward to Jesus. I'm off and I'm running, and I'm not turning back. He's off and he's running, like the Aurora Murray. He's off and he's running, and he's not turning back. Are you off and running? Are you on a journey seeking Christ and God's life lived through you in this journey? How's it going? Are you tired from the race? Are you ready to go, hey, I'm not much of an ultra marathoner? Well, here's the good news for us. God enables us to have light feet. By the way, that's the meaning of the word Aurora Murray. It's a Spanish transliteration that means light-footed. That's the name of that people. May we be light-footed on the journey of faith and the journey of being Christ-like. May we continue on that path, seeking that as our goal. Not any of the other things that might distract us from that. May we care for those entrusted to us. May we bear our responsibilities. And may we do that while journeying to be more like God in this life. Jesus, in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 25, is at a place where people are tired of going on the journey and they want it to end. The disciples have found that Jesus is now arriving at Jerusalem, and they go, good. This is good news to us because we want you to bring about your kingdom. And for the disciples, what they thought that meant was that Jesus was going to come and wipe out the Romans and remake the earth and bring his angels from heaven down and wipe away the tears from their eyes and make sinning and evil no more. And Christ was still going to come. That's going to happen, but it wasn't then, and it's not today yet. And they were, well, we can't wait till you do this. This is going to be a wondrous thing. And Jesus goes, yeah, I'm not doing that yet. You have a long journey ahead of you. You need to live into faith. Take that next faithful step, not look for an out. Part of what we're invited to as people of faith is to perseverance, to persist, to keep going mile after mile on the journey of faith and life without looking for a quick out or an excuse, but instead to keep going. And so Jesus tells a story to illustrate this. He puts himself, if you will, in the role of the royal person, of the master. And he tells a parable called the parable of the talents. Do you know it? Are you familiar with it? It's Matthew chapter 25. You want to follow in your Bibles, you're welcome to do so. I'm going to tell the story. It's also told in a different way in the Gospel of Luke chapter 19 and the parable of the pounds. Jesus may have told this story a couple different times, but this is how we have it from the Gospel of Matthew chapter 25. Jesus says what's going to be like is that the master is going away. He's going to go to another land, and he's going to receive his royal power. He's going to come back as the king. And of course, Jesus is going away. And so what's left? And so Jesus says, well, there were his servants. The master calls his servants together, and to one faithful servant, he gives 5 talents. To another, he gives 2 talents. And to yet a third, who's not as faithful, he gives 1 talent. Now, a talent's not like an ability. It's a unit of measurement, of currency. A talent is about 60 pounds worth of silver in that time. That's an extraordinary amount of money, right? Think about carrying 60 pounds worth of silver. It's worth 600 denarii, and a denarii was a single day laborer's income for a day. And so it's 6,000 of that. That's 20 years worth of money that he gives to even the least faithful of the servants. And as Jesus goes on, he goes, and he tells them to go and to be fruitful with this, to go on the journey of living it out, to do what they can with it, and that he will return, as Christ is going to return to us. And so then they go out. And the one who received 5 talents, he works. I mean, he gets after it. He persists. He invests. He talks to people. He does what he can to make there be an increase in what has been given to him. The one who received does the same, who received 2 talents, does what they can, and is preparing for the master to come. And then there's the one who received 1 talent. Do you know what he did with it? Jesus says he thought, oh, my master is a harsh man. The master is mean and will judge me if I don't create something good out of this. So out of fear of not losing what God has given me, I'm going to dig a hole. He digs a hole and he buries the talent in the hole, preparing for when the master returns to just give it back and not have lost anything. Jesus expands upon this and says, the master returns. And after a long time, the master comes and he ordered the servants to come together and to give an account of what had been given to them. The one who received 5 talents comes forward and says, I bring to you 5 more talents. He has 10 talents now. He says, Master, you handed me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more. The master says to him, well done, good and trustworthy servant. You have been trustworthy with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. I love that last line, right? Jesus says, now enter into the joy. Share in your master's joy. I rejoice that you have been able to be fruitful and experience wonderful things. It fills my heart. You share in my joy. And then the one who brought the 2 talents comes back and goes, I got 2 more out of it. I also doubled. And the master says the same thing. Good and trustworthy servant, bless you. For what much has been given, much will be given further. And you shall also enter into the joy of your master. And then we have the third. And the third comes. And he says, Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and I hid your talent in the ground. Have here what is yours. Just take it and leave me alone. The master replied, you wicked and lazy servant. You wicked and lazy servant. You were given an opportunity. You've been resourced with all of this. Now this is a gift to you. You didn't earn it. I gave it to you. I enabled you to go on a journey experiencing the richness that life has and to just claim whatever you can. And listen, You didn't earn it in the first place, so don't worry about it. Just go and do what you can with it. And instead of doing that, he buries it in the ground. And you know what Jesus says to this? It sounds like it was written today. Jesus responds going, if you had gone to the bankers, it would have had interest at least. Isn't that great? That's literally there. At least it could have had interest. You wouldn't have had to do anything. Like, you're just hand it over so that others can witness it and benefit from the blessings I place in your life. Enable your blessings to bless other people, and may all rejoice to see faithfulness at work in this world. You didn't have to have all the abilities or skill or success of this other person. You're not them, but at least do what you can with what you've got. Keep going on the journey, Jesus is saying. And this servant says, nah, I'm not about that. I'm putting it beneath the ground. I'm going to hide. I'm going to bury it. We're invited to not bury our faith or bury the gifts of the Lord to us, but to claim them with joy, to thank the Lord with them, and go on a journey of saying, yes, Lord, I'm going with you. I don't know what will happen. I don't know what the reward will be. But I'm going to recognize that you are good, and I'm going to serve you with what I've got and what you've given to me. What's interesting about this disturbing and wonderful story that Jesus tells is that the third servant has a totally mismatched perception of the master than the other two. It's wrong. See, the master is actually benevolent, is kind, is loving, and is generous, and is trying to enable the others, the servants, to receive blessing. Jesus is saying, God is for you, not against you. God is for you, not against you. But what does the third servant think? The third servant thinks, no, you're just ready to curse me, condemn me, send wrath upon me, have me suffer. I should fear you and tremble, but not love you or be drawn into your mercy, because it's not there. And that third servant has it wrong. And so I want to say to you today, if you haven't heard it before, that if your notion of God is the third servant, it's wrong. Let go of it. Like Paul says, I leave behind that which and I press forward in a new way, but press forward in truth. Know that God is for you, not a... Yeah, let's try that again. God is for you, not... Yeah, do you believe it? I hope you do. The part of the purpose of Jesus sharing this story is to say that message. And to say, while saying that, it's not going to be easy. You still need to go out there. Don't hide. Take the opportunity you've got to persevere in faith. Go on the journey. Keep going mile after mile. Know that I am loosening the burden, lighting your feet, that you can take that next faithful step. You can go further than you think you can. You're more capable than you have any idea. Go with God and enable that journey to be a blessing for yourself and also for others. But persevere in faith, recognizing that God is a God who is for you and not against you. This is what Jesus is saying. And Paul is building on this. Paul recognizes that the Master does have joy in us. And God wants to invite us into the Lord's joy. And so Paul might be behind prison cells and locked up, and he is going to be executed from Rome. He is not going to live. Emperor Nero condemns him to death. But even knowing that that's a probability, his heart is still filled with joy. He's like, listen, you can't take it away from me. I'm persisting in this. I'm holding on to it through anything, even through the experience I'm facing today. You know what's, to go back to the Roromori and about our human capacity, one of the interesting things about humans that enables us to keep going mile after mile for 100 miles or so, for some at least, not this guy, the ability of some humans to do that, the scientists have nailed it to two things. One, we can sweat instead of pant. May not sound like a big deal, but it matters. Because when you sweat, you're cooling down even while you're still being active. We can keep going and be cooling ourselves as we go. It's how that 22-year-old Roromori athlete was able to keep a heartbeat of 120 to 130 for 60 miles. It's amazing. but in part because she's sweating, as opposed to an animal who stops and pants and tries to get the heat out that way. We can dissipate it as we go. So I want to invite you as you go to be cooling off. To recognize, listen, I don't have to stop to cool off. I can still keep going and ask for the Lord to give me a sense of peace and presence and calm on the journey. We are those who can resource ourselves and have the capacity to keep cool even while we're on the journey. And the second thing that humans can do is that we can carry things with us. We can equip ourselves with tools, backpacks. Most importantly, if you go back to the ancient humans, we were able to carry water and food with us. We can receive nourishment on the journey. We go with, not just apart from, those resources. So the further we go, we may not be going further away from our source of nourishment. We may be continuing with our source of nourishment. Go with nourishment. Carry with you the wellspring of life. Carry with you the resources needed. Maybe it's a scripture verse from Philippians chapter 3 that says, and you repeat to yourself, I press on towards the goal, not that I have achieved it, but I go towards the prize of Christ Jesus. Being able to cite those words, to remember that, remember who you are and whose you are, that is a resource that equips and enables along the journey. I hope that you carry that with you. Now today, I wasn't going to share, but this morning sometimes things just happen that preach, and hopefully it preaches. This morning, as I'm preparing to preach about persistence and keep going and persisting in faith and pressing towards the goal, I got up, I felt good, I got showered, I got dressed. I walk out of the house and I realize I don't have my keys. So I go back in, I look for my keys. Now I got the car keys, I don't have the church keys, the master key. And I look, and it's on a lanyard, but I don't have one of those trackers on it. I don't have the tile on it. I go through my clothes, I go through my backpack, I go through both of the cars. And I'm like, I got to get to the church, so I just get in the car and I come here hoping that somebody will open the door and let me in. And thank the Lord there was somebody here to let me in without my keys. But in the hurry of getting ready and carrying out and walking out, I left my Bible at home. I'm like, Lord, I'm stumbling on this journey. I'm like, and my wife will assure you I have many Bibles, so that's okay. I had backups. I just didn't have my notes in it. So I get here to the church, and I'm like, I'm able to get one of the staff members to unlock my office. I get in there. I turn on my computer to print my notes, because even though I don't read from them, I have the outline, and I like to have it's a safety blanket. Just go with me here. To have it printed out. And my computer says, need a new password. So I type in a new password, and it says, insufficient resources to process this request. That's the phrase. I'm going to repeat that. Insufficient resources to process this request. I put in a new password 5 times. It kept saying this. And so I call Steve Shako, who's a facility manager, and I said, Steve, I need help. I text him, and he goes, on my way. Thank the Lord for people who are on the way with you, right? Don't leave you alone in the midst of all the stumbling. He comes here, he calls Verisec, he gets me into the computer. Anyway, and I'm here. Am I here the way I would like to be? Would I have liked to have my keys, my Bible, my outline? Yeah, I would have loved that. But we're not invited to have everything work to walk forward in faith. Amen? You might feel like you have insufficient resources to process this request. But God has sufficient resources to process this request. God is giving the talents. And some of us get 5, some of us get 2, some of us get 1. But whatever we got, don't bury it or make it an excuse to not serve the Master. But may it be an increase, and may you go forth in joy, sharing in the Master's joy. Thanks be to God. Amen.